Have you ever wondered what famous celebrities do when they're confronted with real people's suffering? Not the staged charity events or the photo opportunities, but when they're faced with raw, desperate need from someone they've never met? This is the story of Sarah Williams, a single mother from Detroit who worked double shifts for 7 years to support her 3 children after their father abandoned them. When her youngest daughter Emma was diagnosed with a rare heart condition, the medical bills devastated what little savings she had. Facing eviction and unable to afford Emma's medication, Sarah wrote a letter to Justin Bieber, her daughter's idol, never expecting it to reach him. But fate had other plans. Sarah's letter not only reached the superstar, but what Justin Bieber did in response would change their lives forever. And the most shocking part? The world wouldn't learn the full truth about his involvement for 3 years. If you think you know how this story ends, I promise you don't. Stay with me to discover how one desperate plea led to a chain of events that nobody, not even Sarah, could have imagined. If what you're about to witness doesn't touch your heart, nothing will. The gray November sky hung low over Detroit, matching Sarah Williams's mood as she trudged up the cracked concrete steps to her apartment building. The bitter wind cut through her thin jacket, but the chill in her bones came from something deeper than the approaching winter. In her hand, she clutched an envelope, the 3rd eviction notice this year. The scent of someone's cooking, probably Mrs. Gonzalez in 3B, wafted down the hallway, mingling with the perpetual smell of damp carpet and old cigarettes. Sarah paused outside her door, summoning the strength to face her children with yet another piece of bad news. Behind the door, she could hear Emma's high-pitched giggle, the sound that had kept her going through the darkest days. How could she tell her 8-year-old that they might not have a home by Christmas, or that the medication that kept her, heart condition stable, was becoming increasingly difficult to afford? For 7 years since Mark had walked out, Sarah had managed on her own. 2 jobs, countless overtime shifts, and an unwavering determination to give her kids, Tyler, 15, Jada, 12, and Emma, 8, everything they needed. But the factory closure 3 months ago had derailed everything. The part-time cleaning job barely covered groceries, let alone rent and medical bills. "Mom's home!" Jada called out as Sarah pushed open the door, quickly tucking the eviction notice into her pocket and forcing a smile. The apartment was small but clean, with mismatched furniture and walls decorated with the children's artwork. Emma ran to her, her thin arms wrapping around Sarah's waist. Despite her condition, Emma radiated joy, her face lighting up as she tugged her mother toward the ancient TV. "Justin Bieber's on TV, Mom. He's donating money to kids in hospitals," Emma exclaimed, her eyes bright with admiration for her favorite singer. Sarah watched her daughter's excitement, an idea forming in her mind. It was probably foolish, desperate even, but desperation was all she had left. After the kids were asleep, Sarah sat at the kitchen table under the flickering light, pen in hand, and began to write. "Dear Justin Bieber, you don't know me, but my daughter Emma knows everything about you." As the night deepened, tears fell onto the paper, blurring the ink of her last hope. The smell of oatmeal, breakfast for the 3rd day in a row, filled the small kitchen. "Emma, don't forget your medication," Sarah called, counting out the pills and trying to ignore how few remained in the bottle. The prescription refill would cost $230 they didn't have. Tyler, her oldest, had been unusually quiet lately. Shoulders hunched, he moved about the apartment with the heaviness of someone carrying an invisible burden. Sarah had noticed him staying, up late on his phone, the only luxury she'd managed to maintain for him, necessary for school and his part-time job applications. "Everything okay, Ty?" she asked, catching his arm gently as he passed. "Yeah, just tired," he mumbled, avoiding her eyes. What Sarah didn't know was that Tyler had found her letter to Justin Bieber, carefully folded and hidden in her drawer. Last night, he had photographed it and, along with pictures of Emma's medical papers and their eviction notice, posted it all on every social media platform he could access. "The celebrities, they talk about helping people. Let's see if any of them actually do," he had written above the post. Before heading to school, Tyler checked his phone. His post, which had garnered only a few sympathetic comments from friends last night, had somehow been shared over 5,000 times. Heart racing, he scrolled through the comments. People from across the country were tagging Justin Bieber and his management team. Tyler hesitated, torn between hope and fear of how his mother would react if she discovered what he'd done. But as he watched Emma carefully place her medication in her backpack, her small hands trembling slightly from her condition, he knew he would do it again in a heartbeat. If this was their one shot at helping Emma and saving their home, then the risk of his mother's anger was worth taking. "Coming, Mom," he called, tucking his phone away, the secret of what he had set in motion weighing heavily on his young shoulders. The Detroit winter had settled in earnest, painting the city in shades of gray and white. Inside the Williams apartment, the mood matched the bleak landscape outside. Sarah sat at the kitchen table, bills spread before her like an impossible puzzle, the red final notice stamp seeming to pulse in the dim light. The scent of cheap coffee filled the air, masking the lingering odor of worry that had permeated their home. 3 days after Tyler's secret post, he could barely contain his nervous energy. His social media notifications had exploded. The post had been shared over 100,000 times, picked up by several news outlets, and was trending under "Help Sarah and Emma." Tyler constantly checked his phone, jumping whenever it buzzed, hoping for the miracle his family desperately needed. "Tyler, you've been glued to that phone for days," Sarah remarked, her voice tired as she sorted through another stack of bills. "Is something going on at school?" Before Tyler could answer, Jada burst through the front door, her cheeks flushed from the cold and excitement. "Mom, Ms. Patterson showed us something crazy in computer class today," she exclaimed, dropping her backpack on the floor. "There's this post going around about us. It has pictures of our apartment and Emma's medicine and everything." The color drained from Tyler's face as Sarah's eyes widened in confusion. "What? Are you talking about what post?" Sarah demanded, turning to Tyler as understanding dawned. "What did you do?" Tyler's confession spilled out in a rush of words and tears about finding her letter, about Justin Bieber. Sarah's phone began ringing incessantly. Unknown numbers, local news stations, talk shows seeking interviews. In less than 24 hours, their private struggle had become public fodder, their dignity seemingly another casualty of their poverty. As night fell, Sarah sat on the edge of Emma's bed, watching her daughter sleep peacefully, unaware of the storm brewing around her. Sarah's pride warred with her desperation. Was public humiliation worth it if it meant saving her daughter? The question haunted her as she gently brushed Emma's hair from her forehead, feeling the slight fever that signaled they couldn't delay the medication refill any longer. Her phone pinged with a text message from an unknown number. "Hello, Sarah. My name is Allison Parker from Scooter Braun Management. We represent Justin Bieber. Could we speak tomorrow morning regarding your situation? This is not a hoax." Sarah stared at the message, hope and disbelief battling in her heart, wondering if their lives were about to change, for better or worse. If this story is touching your heart, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next in this incredible journey. The next chapter reveals Justin's first reaction, and I promise it's not what you expect. The following morning, sunlight streamed through the apartment windows, casting long shadows across the worn carpet. Sarah paced nervously, checking the time every few minutes. The apartment was unusually quiet. She'd asked a neighbor to take the kids to school to avoid the reporters who had gathered outside their building overnight. The air felt charged with anticipation, scented with the strong coffee she'd brewed to calm her nerves. At precisely 10 a.m., her phone rang. With trembling hands, Sarah answered and was greeted by a warm, professional voice. "Sarah, this is Allison. Parker, thank you for agreeing to speak with me. I have someone here who would like to talk to you." There was a brief pause, and then a male voice came on the line. "Hi, Sarah." "Here's what I'm thinking," Justin said finally. "Let's address the immediate concerns first, your housing and Emma's medication. But I don't want to just throw money at the problem. I want to help create stability for your family's future." What Justin proposed next left Sarah speechless. It wasn't just financial assistance for their immediate needs, but a comprehensive plan developed with his team. Housing assistance, medical coverage for Emma through a foundation he worked with, education funds for all 3 children, and job placement help for Sarah based on her experience in manufacturing. "Why would you do all this for us?" Sarah asked, tears streaming down her face. "You don't even know us." There was a pause before Justin responded, his voice softer now. "Let's just say I understand more than you might think. But here's my one condition. I want to keep my involvement private for now. The media attention won't help you or your kids, and honestly, this isn't about me getting credit." As the call ended, Sarah sat in stunned silence. Outside, reporters still waited, hungry for the story of a celebrity's response to a viral plea. They would have to keep waiting. The real story, the one beginning to unfold behind the scenes, was far more extraordinary than they could have imagined. If you're enjoying this story, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. The journey of Sarah's family is just beginning, and Justin's true connection to their situation will leave you speechless. 2 weeks after Justin's call, subtle but significant changes began transforming the Williams family's life. Their eviction notice mysteriously disappeared from court records. Emma's specialist called to say her treatment had been covered by an anonymous donor through a patient assistance program. A job interview was arranged for Sarah at a newly opened manufacturing plant with hours that accommodated her children's schedules. The December air was crisp and cold as Sarah walked home from her successful interview, her breath forming small clouds in front of her. The streets were decorated with holiday lights, reflecting off the fresh snow and creating a magical atmosphere that matched her cautious optimism. For the first time in years, the weight on her shoulders felt lighter. Meanwhile, across the country in a minimalist Los Angeles office, Justin Bieber sat with his management team and a small group of specialists he had assembled: a pediatric cardiologist, a social worker, an education consultant, and a housing specialist. "The medication is a temporary solution," the cardiologist explained, pointing to Emma's medical records on the screen. "She'll need surgery within the next year. It's complex but has a high success rate." Justin nodded, making notes. The soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant sounds of LA traffic filtered through the windows as they continued their discussion. The room smelled of fresh coffee and purpose. This was not a publicity meeting, but a mission planning session. "What about their housing situation?" Justin asked, turning to the housing specialist. "I've found a small house for rent in a better neighborhood with good schools," she replied. "It's close to the manufacturing plant where Sarah will be working. The owner is willing to offer a 2-year lease with an option to buy if we guarantee the payments." "Perfect. Set it up through the foundation so my name stays out of it," Justin instructed. "And make sure the schools know about the kids' situation, especially Emma's medical needs, but keep the source of support confidential." As the meeting progressed, Justin revealed more of his personal connection to the project. "My mom was a single parent too," he shared, his voice softening with memory. "We struggled financially when I was growing up. There were times when people helped us stay afloat long before I became successful. This isn't just charity, it's paying it forward." What the public didn't see, what Sarah herself didn't fully understand yet, was that Justin was orchestrating a complete life rehabilitation for the Williams family, drawing on his own childhood experiences and the network of resources his success had allowed him to build. Back in Detroit, Sarah received another call from Allison. "We have some news about a housing opportunity," she began. "And Justin wanted me to tell you personally, he's arranged for Emma to see one of the top pediatric cardiologists in the country next month." That night, as Sarah tucked her children into bed in their small apartment for what would be one of the last times, she struggled to comprehend the changes happening around them. She had expected, at most, a small donation from the celebrity her daughter adored. Instead, invisible hands seemed to be rebuilding the foundation of their lives. What she couldn't know was that Justin had made a 3-year commitment to her family's case, a detail that would remain hidden until a bedroom house in a safe neighborhood on Detroit's outskirts. Snowflakes danced in the sunlight, landing softly on her shoulders as she watched the moving truck arrive. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the promise of new beginnings and the faint scent of pine from the trees lining the street. "Is this really ours, Mom?" Emma asked, her small hand tucked in Sarah's, eyes wide with wonder. "It's our home for now," Sarah answered, still processing their changed circumstances. "For at least 2 years. The rental house was furnished simply but comfortably, nothing extravagant but everything they needed." What touched Sarah most were the thoughtful details. A desk in each child's room, a fully stocked kitchen, Emma's room painted her favorite shade of purple, and a reliable used car in the garage to replace their broken-down vehicle. Tyler, who had been quiet and remorseful since his viral post, explored the house with growing animation. "Mom, there's a basketball hoop in the backyard," he called, his teenage coolness momentarily forgotten. "And look at this," Jada exclaimed, pointing to a bookshelf filled with titles she'd mentioned loving during a call with Allison. As they settled in, Sarah started her new job at the manufacturing plant. The position paid better than her previous work and offered full benefits, a miracle she still couldn't quite believe. Emma's medical treatments progressed, with appointments scheduled with specialists they could never have afforded before. One evening, as Sarah helped Emma with her homework at their new kitchen table, her daughter asked the question that had been on all their minds. "Do you think Justin Bieber knows we moved to a nicer house?" Sarah smiled, running her hand over Emma's hair. "I think his team might have helped arrange it, but remember, we agreed not to talk about it much. They wanted to help quietly." "But why doesn't he want anyone to know?" Emma persisted, her young face scrunched in confusion. Sarah considered the question. "Sometimes the kindest things people do are the ones they keep private. It's not about getting credit or having people think they're nice. It's just about doing the right thing." What Sarah didn't tell Emma was about the legal paperwork she'd received, outlining a 3-year support plan for their family through a foundation, one that would help them achieve independence rather than just temporary relief. The documentation never mentioned Justin directly, but Sarah recognized the structure from their phone conversation. As winter melted into spring, the Williams family bloomed in their new environment. Tyler's grades improved, and he joined the school basketball team. Jada discovered a passion for science at her new school. Emma's health stabilized with proper medication and care, though her upcoming surgery still loomed on the horizon. Through it all, Sarah marveled at how their lives had transformed from a viral moment of desperation into a carefully crafted journey toward stability, all because of the compassion of someone they had never met face to face. This isn't just a story about celebrity kindness, it's about how lives can change when we least expect it. Subscribe now to find out what happens when Emma finally gets her life-saving surgery and the surprising twist that reveals Justin's. true connection to their family. By late April, cherry blossoms dotted the trees outside Detroit Children's Hospital, their delicate pink petals occasionally drifting past the window of Emma's pre-op room. The sterile hospital environment was softened by stuffed animals and colorful cards from her new classmates. The room smelled of antiseptic and the fresh flowers that arrived each morning from an anonymous well-wisher. Sarah sat beside Emma's bed, trying to project calm confidence while anxiety churned inside her. Tomorrow would be Emma's heart surgery, a procedure that could dramatically improve her quality of life, but carried risks that kept Sarah awake at night. "Are you scared, Mom?" Emma asked, her perception cutting through Sarah's facade. "A little," Sarah admitted, squeezing her daughter's hand. "But Dr. Patel is one of the best surgeons in the country, and she knows exactly what to do to fix your special heart." What she didn't tell Emma was that Dr. Patel typically had a 2-year waiting list, or that the doctor had specifically taken Emma's case after receiving a call from a foundation connected to Justin Bieber. Tyler and Jada visited that evening, bringing Emma's favorite stuffed rabbit and nervous energy. The siblings had grown closer through their family's journey, with Tyler stepping up as a protective older brother since their move. "I made this for you," Jada said, presenting Emma with a handmade card signed by her entire class. "And Ms. Johnson says we're all going to have a welcome back party when you're better." After the kids said goodnight, Sarah stepped into the hallway to call her new boss and confirm her family medical leave. As she finished the call, a doctor she didn't recognize approached her. "Ms. Williams, I'm Dr. Carter, one of the cardiac consultants on Emma's case." He hesitated, then continued with a hint of awe in his voice. "I just wanted you to know, I've been consulting on pediatric cardiac cases for 20 years, and I've never seen this level of coordination for a patient. Emma's receiving care equivalent to what we provide for children of dignitaries or, well, celebrities." Sarah nodded, unsure how to respond without revealing information she'd promised to keep confidential. "The specialist flying in from Boston tomorrow?" Dr. Carter continued. "He rarely takes outside cases and certainly not ever expected to be read." The next morning, as nurses prepared Emma for surgery, Sarah was surprised to receive a text from an unknown number. "Sending positive thoughts to Emma today. The surgical team is the best. You're both stronger than you know. JB." Hours later, in the surgical waiting room with Tyler and Jada, Sarah received updates that the procedure was going perfectly. The complex surgery that would have been financially impossible just months ago was now Emma's ticket to a normal childhood. As afternoon faded into evening, Dr. Patel finally emerged. Abilities. What Sarah couldn't have known was that Justin Bieber had received a real-time update about Emma's successful surgery while on tour in Europe, or that his personal connection to their story went deeper than simple charity. Summer arrived in a blur of recovery and celebration. Emma's surgery had been a complete success, her energy levels improving daily as her heart functioned properly for the first time in years. The Williams' new backyard became neighborhood central, with Emma's medical restrictions lifting just in time for her to enjoy the community pool and summer activities like any other child. Sarah thrived in her new position, recently promoted, to shift supervisor after demonstrating leadership skills she never knew she possessed. With financial stability, consistent housing, and Emma's health improving, the family began to breathe easier, to plan beyond mere survival. One warm July evening, Sarah sat on their porch swing, watching her children play basketball with neighborhood kids in the driveway. The sound of laughter mingled with the distant hum of lawnmowers and the sweet scent of freshly cut grass, ordinary moments that now felt extraordinary. Her phone buzzed with a text from Allison. Justin is visiting Detroit tomorrow for a private event. He was hoping to finally meet Emma and your family in person. This would still be confidential. No press. Would 2 p.m. work? Sarah stared at the message, her heart racing. After months of anonymous assistance and behind-the-scenes support, the mysterious benefactor would finally have a face beyond album covers and music videos. She quickly responded, yes. The following day, Sarah cleaned their already tidy home compulsively, while the children vibrated with excitement. Emma had changed outfits 3 times, finally settling on her favorite blue dress. "Do you think he'll sing for us?" Emma asked, twirling around the living room. "I don't think so, honey. Remember, this isn't a concert. He just wants to meet you," Sarah explained, trying to manage expectations while her own nerves jangled. At precisely 2 p.m., 2 black SUVs pulled up outside. Justin Bieber, dressed casually in jeans and a simple white t-shirt, stepped out with just 2 people, Allison and a security guard who remained by the vehicles. Emma froze, suddenly shy, while Tyler and Jada stood speechless. Sarah opened the door, finding herself equally tongue-tied in the presence of the superstar who had transformed their lives. Justin smiled warmly. "Hi, Sarah. It's really good to finally meet you in person," he said, shaking her hand. His voice was exactly as it had been on the phone, kind and surprisingly down to earth. Inside, after initial awkwardness faded, Justin sat with the family in their living room. Emma gradually overcame her shyness, showing him her surgery scar with pride and the artwork she'd created during recovery. "I brought something for each of you," Justin said, as his assistant brought in a box. For Tyler, basketball tickets. For Jada, a science kit from a program promoting girls in STEM. For Emma, a small guitar with his signature. But it was the gift for Sarah that revealed everything. A framed letter, yellowed with age. "This is a letter my mom wrote when I was about Emma's age," Justin explained, his voice softening. "We were struggling, just her and me. She wrote to a local business owner asking for help with our rent after she got sick and couldn't work. He didn't just pay our rent. He helped her find better work and kept checking on us for years. He never wanted recognition." Sarah looked from the framed letter to Justin, understanding dawning. "When I saw your letter," he continued, "it wasn't just about helping a fan. It was like seeing my own mother's handwriting from 20 years ago. That businessman changed our lives by treating us like family, not charity. I promised myself I'd do the same if I ever had the chance." In that moment, Sarah understood that their story had never been about celebrity charity or viral fame. It was about a cycle of compassion, from a businessman to a struggling single mother and her talented son, and now from that son, grown successful beyond imagination, to another single mother fighting the same battles. As they shared a meal together, Justin insisting on the same simple pasta they'd prepared for dinner, the atmosphere shifted from starstruck to something more genuine, a connection between people who understood struggle, resilience, and the profound impact of kindness extended without expectation of return. The story you think you know is about to reveal its most powerful twist. Subscribe now to discover how this meeting changes everything and sets in motion an ending that will leave you speechless. 3 years passed, each season bringing new growth for the Williams family. Emma, now 11, had blossomed into an energetic middle schooler with no signs of her former condition, except a faint scar. Jada had won a regional science competition with a project on cardiac health, inspired by her sister's journey. Tyler was preparing for college with strong grades and a basketball scholarship on the horizon. Sarah had continued to advance at work, eventually becoming a full production manager. More importantly, she'd completed night classes in business management, developing skills that extended beyond the factory floor. Their rental home had become their own through a rent-to-own arrangement that had mysteriously favored their circumstances. Throughout these years, they'd maintained occasional contact with Justin's team, primarily Allison, who checked in periodically to ensure the support systems were functioning properly. Justin himself had sent holiday cards and the occasional message about Emma's checkups, but his global touring schedule and their desire for normal lives meant they hadn't met again in person. The family's story had faded from public memory. Occasionally, someone would recognize Tyler as the kid who posted that viral letter years ago, but the connection to Justin Bieber remained their carefully guarded secret. A crisp October morning found Sarah in her office at the plant, reviewing production reports when her assistant interrupted with an unusual message. The owner of their parent company was touring the facility and specifically requested to meet her. The corporate headquarters executive conference room felt a world away from the factory floor, with its gleaming table and panoramic views of Detroit's revitalized skyline. Sarah straightened her blazer nervously as executives filed in, followed finally by a silver-haired man she recognized from company materials as Harrison Mackey, the billionaire industrialist whose conglomerate had acquired their Sarah, there's another reason I wanted to meet you, he said, his tone shifting. About 4 years ago, I received a call from Justin Bieber about investing in a struggling manufacturing plant in Detroit. Sarah's heart began racing as pieces clicked into place. He never mentioned you by name, Mackey continued, just said, there were skilled workers being displaced who deserved a chance. Our company was looking to expand anyway, but his you telling me this now? She managed to ask. Because Justin called again last week, Mackey replied. He mentioned you've completed your business degree and suggested you might be ready for a regional management position. But this time, he asked me to tell you the truth. He said you've earned the right to know that your success isn't charity. It's the result of your talents finally having the right platform. Outside the window, the Detroit skyline stood proud against the autumn sky. Sarah thought about how far they'd come, how the desperate woman writing a letter by candlelight seemed like someone from another lifetime. The success she'd found wasn't handed to her. She'd earned every promotion, worked through every class. But someone had removed the barriers that had once made moving forward impossible. There's a foundation event in New York next month, Mackey added. Justin will be there announcing a new initiative for single-parent families. He's asked if you would consider sharing your story publicly for the first time, not as a recipient of charity, but as a partner in the program's development. That evening, Sarah gathered her children in their living room, the same room where they'd met Justin 3 years earlier, and finally shared the full story of how their lives had changed. Not just the parts they knew about their housing and Emma's medical care, but the unseen architecture that had created opportunities for their entire family to thrive. So, everything that happened to us was because of him? Tyler asked, now a thoughtful young man very different from the impulsive teen who had posted that letter. No, Sarah replied firmly. He removed obstacles, but we built this life ourselves. That's what makes this different from charity. It's why he kept his involvement private, so we would know our achievements were our own. As they talked late into the night, the family came to a unanimous decision about the foundation event and the public revelation of their connection to Justin Bieber. It was time for their private story to serve a greater purpose. The New York ballroom glittered with chandeliers and celebrity, the air perfumed with expensive floral arrangements and anticipation. Camera flashes punctuated the dimly lit space as Justin Bieber took the stage to announce the official launch of the Full Circle Foundation, his new initiative to provide comprehensive support for single-parent families. Sarah, dressed in a simple but elegant blue dress, watched from the side of the stage with her children, now poised and confident young people barely recognizable from the desperate family of 4 years ago. Emma, her heart strong and healthy, squeezed her mother's hand in excitement. "Most of you know my own story," Justin began, his voice echoing through the ballroom. "How my mother and I struggled, and how one person's belief in our potential changed everything." He paused, scanning the room. "What you don't know is how that childhood experience led to a quiet project that began 4 years ago. A project that's becoming public tonight for the first time." A murmur rippled through the audience as screens displayed the first image. Tyler's viral post from 4 years earlier, Sarah's handwritten letter clearly visible. "This letter reached me during a difficult time in my own life," Justin continued. "It reminded me of my mother's struggles, and I decided to help. Not with a check or a photo opportunity, but with the same type of sustained support that changed my own life." As Justin spoke, he invited Sarah and her family to join him on stage. The audience, realizing they were witnessing the subjects of the viral story that had briefly captured attention years ago, broke into applause. "For the past 4 years," Justin explained, "we've worked together behind the scenes, creating a model for comprehensive family support that addresses not just immediate needs, but long-term stability. Housing, healthcare, education, and career development approached as investments rather than handouts." Sarah stepped to the microphone, her nervousness fading as she spoke from the heart about their journey. "What Justin did for us wasn't about money," she said. "It was about removing barriers so we could build our own success. My children didn't need charity, they needed opportunity. And that's what the Full Circle Foundation aims to provide." The audience listened rapt as Emma confidently described her heart condition and recovery, as Tyler explained how his impulsive post had led to unexpected blessings, and as Jada shared her dreams of becoming a doctor, specializing in pediatric cardiology. As the formal presentation concluded, the real news was revealed. The Full Circle Foundation had already been operating quietly for 3 years, supporting 50 single-parent families across the country. Each family's story was different, but the approach was the same: comprehensive support designed to create self-sufficiency, not dependency. Healthcare specialists, and most importantly, families like Sarah's who had lived the reality of struggling alone. In a quiet moment, Sarah found herself standing beside Justin, watching Emma demonstrate her completely recovered heart's strength by dancing energetically with her siblings. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when you wrote that letter?" Justin asked. Sarah shook her head. "I was just hoping for help with 1 month's rent and Emma's medication. I never dreamed we'd be standing here." Future hung in the balance.